This is the third part in the series of how to create chunks of money out of residential property. In this one, I'm going to talk about how you can do this without actually having to build anything. And the best part is you need very, very little money to get started. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about how you can actually generate chunks of money without having to build anything. And there's a further benefit to this also, is that if you are starting out on your property development journey and you have limited funds, there's an opportunity here to actually make money even with very limited funds, so as that you can build up your asset cash amount so that you're then able to get into larger developments down the road. So this is a way of getting into property development without having a large amount of cash. And so it's simply taking a piece of land that has got no planning in place and buying that piece of land and getting planning permission in on the land. So this model works particularly well in two ways. First of all, one is that you don't necessarily have to build any structure on it. So in other words, you can take a piece of land, gain planning on it, and then sell that to a developer who will then build that particular project out. And if you buy the land at the right price, then you're able to get the benefit of planning gain, and that's the price. That's the difference between the price that you paid for it as just raw land that had no planning in place to land that has planning in place, which as we know increases the value of that land dramatically. But so the secret is to finding land that doesn't have planning, but also about lowering your risk, because the last thing you want to do is to pay for a piece of land and then not get planning on it, and then you're basically left with a field. It may not look like a field, but you're just basically left with a field that perhaps is only worth £5,000 to £10,000 an acre, as it is generally throughout the UK. So there's techniques in order to be able to achieve planning on that land without having to part with the money first. And the way that you do that is through an option agreement. So if you have a piece of land and I want to buy it, but it's not got planning on it, we would agree the terms of that option agreement, and whatever we want to go into that option agreement is what we decide goes into that option agreement. There's no actual formula for that. There'll be legally, it has to be tied up in certain ways, and that's for the lawyers to deal with. But we principally would agree what we want in that option agreement, and we would agree the price. Now, there's lots of parameters in that, and I'm not going to really discuss that in this video, but I do have a course on that, which is the Find It course, which goes into the intricacies of that situation. But we agree a price, and depending on the risk that you take or I take in that process will determine how much profit I get to keep and how much profit you get to make out of it. So, but in that way, we've created a chunk of money, which I can then take that deal now with full planning, and then I can look for a buyer, which is going to be a property developer who wants to then develop that land, and they will make a profit out of building the house, but they won't make the profit out of the planning gain. Now, as a full property developer, you have the opportunity to have two profit centers. You can make the planning gain, and you can also make the profit out of the build itself. So that's two opportunities there to make some money. So as you'll have seen from these lessons, there are many routes to market, and really the choice is down to you, what you feel most comfortable with. However, having said that, I really would encourage you to step outside your comfort zone. One of the things that you need to think about is how much is your time value. So if you take the number of hours that you're going to devote to this and put a value on that time, to me it would make much more sense to spend your time on the project that produces the highest return. And so in this series of lessons, I have pretty much put them in order of higher return. So the higher return for lesser effort runs from the first lesson through to the last lesson. So the last lesson we talked about was planning gain. That often takes the least amount of time and has the highest reward. Next to that would be then development to sell, because you then have an opportunity there to obtain two different profit centers, the planning gain, and also then there is additionally the building gain by actually producing the building. And then next behind that would be the build to rent. And the reason that the build to rent is slightly less is because you're going to have to pay VAT, so that's going to eat into your profits. And then we go further back, and as you will see, there's probably less and less money to be made, with perhaps the exception maybe of conversions, because it really depends on the size of the project that you undertake. But it's probably going to take far more capital in order to achieve the same sort of returns that you could with planning gain and build to sell. If you need further help on this, then we do have a Find It course, or should I say we have a course that's called Find It, and this will give you the opportunity to learn how to source land and then go through the whole process up to the point where you negotiate the sale to make sure that you make this a viable proposition. So I hope you found these last two videos useful, because they are fundamental to building a successful property business. Creating chunks of money is what really will help you stay in this business when the economic downturn comes. Because one thing we know, there will be an economic downturn. And so when that happens, you will have a much more secure business. But also, not only that, you will be able to pick up opportunities from people who have not built their business in this way. And you will be in a much stronger position, because lending will be much tighter and cash will be king. So please follow these strategies, and if you need any help, get in touch, join our membership community at builditandprosper.com, and remember to subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, and share it with your friends and family, because they deserve to have a lifestyle of choice too. Until the next video, stay safe, and I look forward to speaking to you then.